Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we are going to recap the orchids that we had in bloom for the month of April. And as you can see, I am still working on rearranging my greenhouse. Today we're gonna go really fast through some of these orchids, mainly the Phalaenopsis, because you already know them and there are just so many of them. But I also have some new bloomers this month that I do want to focus a little bit more on. So with that said, remember you have a link down below where you can vote your favorite orchid this month. And who knows, maybe some of these orchids will make it on your wish lists. And with that said, let's start. First, let's get the Phalaenopsis out of the way, the big Phalaenopsis I mean. I won't talk about each and every one of them individually, but there are a few things that I do want to say about particular ones. So first off, the Singolo. I have huge flowers on this orchid. So as we expected, the Singolo is a big flowered variety which, if given proper conditions and with what I believe is an inhibiting hormone out of the way, can actually bloom exactly like any other big Phalaenopsis. The difference is the flowers are absolutely enormous. Leaves are starting to return to normal as well, so by all means, this orchid is just a very big flowered hybrid. Out of all the big Phalaenopsis orchids, I think my favorites are the Big Lip ones. And I have two in bloom at the moment. And even though they do take up a lot of space, they have big leaves, they have long and pretty awkward flower spikes, I do really enjoy them. So definitely the Big Lip Phalaenopsis will remain with me. Remember that last year I acquired a white Phalaenopsis which had really interesting blooms? Well, this year the pattern remained the same, but I don't have a pretty display at all because this orchid has been heavily infested with thrips. Many of the buds actually fell, so if you can imagine, this orchid should have had two beautiful flower spikes, but it doesn't. Better luck next year. One of the best hybrids that I have is not a big lip Phalaenopsis, but it's one that has a wonderful pattern and even a wonderful color palette. Thank you for the ID. I totally forgot what this was. It is Phalaenopsis Pinyf. It's just a commercial name. You will not find the parentage of this orchid, most probably at the moment when I record this video. But it doesn't stop it from being beautiful. Even though she's one of the biggest Phalaenopsis that I have, the Sun Passat I really like. First it's the color, then it's that gradient shift to white towards the center, again, that I like. And also there's a little bit of a fragrance. It smells mildly like something sweet, floral. And overall I can put up with the size because I do love the flowers. A lovely little Cattleya in bloom this month is the harrisoniana, which is one of the ICU orchids. When I received it, it was a 2-cane division without any type of roots. And here we are, 4 years later, finally we have blooms. And I know what you're thinking, could this be the Princess Jackie? No, it's not. But I have to say, the fragrance of this orchid reminds me a little bit of the Princess Jackie. It has a little bit of that warmth. But it's not really one-to-one. So definitely it is not the Princess Jackie, but it could be a parent. But I have to say, if you are looking for a nicely fragrant white Cattleya, this is absolutely gorgeous. I really like this orchid. This month we also had the Cattlianthe Rojo in bloom. This is the variety Cardinal, which apparently is an awarded variety. It had more buds than this, but either mealybugs or thrips got to it. It's okay now though, it's residing outside, and I have to say, ever since I placed back the Cattleyas outside, I do seem to have a lot less thrips on the flowers. So that's great. The downside is the flowers and the plants get dusty really fast, so they do need showers, which is okay because it's very warm right now. The Cattlianthe Rojo is one that I had a long time ago. It is not fragrant, but it has a beautiful fiery red color, and I can only imagine the beautiful display in the future. And let's actually continue with the outdoors orchids. This is Encyclia cordigera, which has bloomed for me every year ever since I purchased it 4 years ago or something. She's a very reliable bloomer, smells sweet. Some people say it smells like chocolate. I feel like it's more of a roasted cocoa, something of the sorts. It smells very nice, it looks very beautiful, and this is the first year that I moved it outside. And look at that, the flowers are looking a lot better than usual. The lip is much more purple than typical. This orchid typically has a whitish with pink vein type of lip. Well, now it's almost completely purple. So I do believe I will move out the Encyclias as well, because they're supposed to be really okay in the heat. And I think the way the flowers will look like will be affected for the better as well. And P.S. whenever you hear the dog bark, imagine I'm taking about a 5-minute break between filming, so you can imagine how long it takes sometimes to film. What to do? It's not my dog, by the way. Next up, we have an Epidendrum in bloom. This is Epidendrum Sister My Love, which is a radicans type of hybrid. And you can see that the flower spike from last year, I didn't remove it because it can rebloom or actually create branches on it or keikis. So I let it be, see what happens. Nothing happened, so I might just cut it away. They're very easy to care for. They're very heat tolerant, like a lot of light. They're terrestrial actually, but they can grow very well in a more water retentive epiphytic mix. It's what I have for them as well, and they do reside outside pretty much all the time, with the exception of the very cold months in winter. Oh, they're not fragrant, but they can be in bloom for a long time. Next, here we have a Dendrobium nobile, and oh my goodness, he looks spectacular. I think I'm gonna make this guy the thumbnail of this video. I know, spoilers, but he looks amazing. Now, if you don't know the story with me and nobiles, due to my very warm environment, they have issues adjusting their pattern of growth and typically end up growing 1.5 growths per year, which makes it a little bit hard to properly time blooming. So this year I kept all of them outside and it worked. It is now the beginning of May and I have my Nobiles in bloom. I typically had them in February around Valentine's, and it was the time when they started to create new growth as well. So the aim of this experiment was to delay new growth so that they don't actually start to grow another growth somewhere in October, where in my climate it's still super hot. The problem is, the only one who looks so beautiful is this guy. The other ones, they look horrible. I'm gonna show them to you in a different video. This guy was a little bit more sheltered where he sat all winter long on the terrace, the other ones not so much. And because of the wind, they lost most of their leaves. They do have buds, but they don't look all that great. They don't have as many flowers as this guy. So what I'm thinking is to move them in the coldest part of the winter in my staircase, not in the greenhouse, which is warmer, because it worked. What I wanted to happen happened. But this is the only one that looks like this. And I have to say, he looks so much better pendant. Don't you think? I might actually try to grow the pendant this year. I'll see. But yeah, this is Dendrobium lysii. I thought it was. This year he produced very thick canes, so I don't know what he is, to be fully honest. I'm just gonna call him a NoID Nobile Yamamoto Dendrobium, and that is that because this year he bloomed like he never bloomed before. P.S. This is one of my oldest orchids at the moment. He's 7 years old in my collection, and I'm very proud of him, but he's the only one looking like this. So yeah, experiment partially successful, mainly not so successful, to be honest. Next, here we have another Dendrobium. This is Jenkinsey crossed with Aggregatum. It does actually have a name, which is hard for me to pronounce. You're gonna have it on the screen. And it is the first time this orchid blooms for me. It is the type of Dendrobium that requires a cooler winter rest, and I had him outside until one day when it got really, really cold, and I got scared because he was already starting to produce this flower spike. I put him inside the greenhouse thinking, it's gonna be okay, other spikes will come. No, it's the only flower spike that I have. So next year I will be a little bit more courageous with keeping him outside. Hopefully I'm gonna have some more flower spikes because it is supposed to create multiple flower spikes. This is the very first time that it's blooming for me. It's already starting to produce new growth. It is a super fast grower, one of the fastest growers in my collection. As for the flowers, I heard that they're fragrant. They're not very fragrant for me. They do have a smell which to me reminds of hay or straws or grass, something of the sorts. It should smell like honey. I don't detect it, but it might just be me. And I also read that they're kind of short-lived. Mine has been in bloom for the past 2 weeks. It's going strong. It lost a flower, so now it's gonna start losing flowers. But hey, 2 weeks, that's standard Cattleya time. And even if it doesn't have a fragrance, at least now, I'm still very happy with this Dendrobium. I will make a care tutorial at some point for it, or at least give you some care tips, because I'm not a super expert at it, but at least I got it to bloom. Let's just continue with Dendrobiums, shall we? This is Dendrobium loddigesii. It is the second time that I have it in bloom, and it's the orchid we recently repotted in a clay pot because it is a cooler growing orchid. Even though this orchid seems to be doing pretty okay for me, I feel like it could do a lot better, and I think the summer is my problem. So that's why I moved it to a clay pot, and hopefully I'm gonna have better growths and more blooms next year. This is not a very pretty looking orchid generally. It has a very awkward pattern of growth, but if it becomes bushy, it looks amazing when it's in bloom. And I have to say the blooms have a wonderful scent. It's not your typical honey-like, sweet type of Dendrobium scent. It's slightly Brassavola-ish. It's much milder, but definitely has a distinct hint to it. I don't know how to explain it. I really like the fragrance. It's the first year that I notice it. Next up, surprise, it's a Zygopetalum or Zygonesia. I don't know. It's one of the Zygopetalums I received from lovely Veronica, and it doesn't have an ID. And well, this is the first bloom from the first growth it grows in my care. It's kind of weak. It doesn't look so spectacular. From now on, this orchid will start to establish. It doesn't even have a proper root system at the moment. I can barely see a few roots. It's been 4 months ever since I received these orchids, so definitely not enough time to establish them, but I am enjoying this little flower spike. It is not fragrant, although I think it should be, so definitely there is some establishing to do, but it's okay. If you didn't know, zygos are actually deciduous, or some of them. If not in the first year, in the second year. You will in the end reach a total mass of pseudobulbs without leaves and a few new growths that have leaves. So it's okay, we don't have to stare at the ugly leaves for years and years. Next, let's look at some Paphiopedilums, shall we? Look at this guy. He's beautiful. This is Paphiopedilum American Beauty, and he is a beauty. Hands down, he is a gorgeous, very dark colored burgundy Paphiopedilum orchid that I received from my friend about a year ago, maybe a year and a half, and it finally bloomed on 2 fans. Actually, we have another bud here in the back that I need to stake because I don't trust myself that I'm not gonna break that flower spike. But anyway, here is the American Beauty, currently the darkest Paphiopedilum that I have. I absolutely adore it. And you might expect the foliage to be dark as well, but it's not. It actually has quite the vivid mottled pattern. So it's absolutely beautiful to look at even when it's not in bloom, but these flowers are absolutely amazing. They are magical. It's so hard to find really dark colored orchids that are not a certain particular shade of purple that I don't really like. But this, which is more of a warm purple, a burgundy purple, I absolutely adore. And this Paphiopedilum is amongst my favorites, hands down. Thank you so much, Jessica, for sending this to me. It makes my heart happy. But wait, the American Beauty is not the only Paph we have in bloom this month. We also have this guy, which I could never pronounce. This is the wenshanense. Okay, maybe not that hard, probably wrong. And he's a species, look at this guy. He's a totally different type of Paphiopedilum with a very short flower spike that I don't really know how to pin because this flower is just so heavy, and I'm afraid that if I'm gonna pin it too close to the stake, I'm gonna break it, but I can rest it on the side of the decorative container. So this is an orchid which I actually purchased it from eBay, and I'm so happy I did because I absolutely love it. I think it's called a bulldog Paphiopedilum. Maybe I'm just inventing this right now because it kind of looks like a little dog, a little bulldog to me in a weird way. But it's a wonderful orchid. It's not fragrant, but I absolutely love it. And take a look at this. So we have a really nice dotted pattern on the front of the flower, but in the back we have a few dots on the petals and sepal as well. But only a few, not a whole lot, which is very cute. So yeah, the orchid herself looks very nice, a very dark mottled foliage, really nice to look at, even if it's not in bloom, but yeah, that bloom. It is beautiful. It's also a very slow grower though. And the Paphs in bloom don't end here. This is Paphiopedilum Vanda and Pearman. And look how pretty he is. I have to say, I really love pink Paphiopedilums. Not so much pink phals, but pink Paphs, oh, I love them. I think they are adorable. Now, this is a Cattlianthe hybrid, and I was curious to see if it's fragrant. I can tell you it's not. It's been in bloom for the past 5 days or 6 days, and I don't detect a fragrance just yet. I doubt I will detect anything, sadly, but he looks beautiful. I did take a picture a few days ago and showed you in my community section. Well, ever since then, the flower opened even more, which is fairly opposite to the first Paphiopedilum that we saw, right? Also, this guy doesn't produce such a long flower spike, which makes it more compact, easily manageable in a shelf, and he's just beautiful to look at, both with flowers and without, because the foliage is also really pretty. It's so delicate, the shape is just like a butterfly, and I definitely recommend it. Very slow grower, again. I have this guy for 2 or 3 years, maybe 2.5 years at this point, and it's only 1 fan here. I got him when he was much tinier than this, but oh boy, I think the next flower will be in 3 to 4 years on this guy because I don't see any growth just yet. He is actually very healthy. Look at that. So it's not a question of I'm not treating it properly. It's just a matter of a very, very slow growing plant. But it's okay, I can overlook that. Alrighty, fun time's over. Let's get back to Phalaenopsis, shall we? This is currently my favorite Phalaenopsis. This is Zhengmin Anaconda Phone. Now I showed you this one in a different video and some of you guys said that it looks like it could smell very bad. It does. It has a fleshy color, if you know what I mean. Just think bulbophyllums. Some of them have that color together with the scent to attract the flies. Yeah, I can see what you guys are saying, but it doesn't have a bad smell. It actually has a pretty nice fragrance. I cannot really say it's like the Bellina or the Violacea or somewhere in the middle. To me, it smells a little bit like anise, anason, anise. I don't exactly know how it is in English. It's that spice that you can make tea out of. Sometimes it's in cookies. I personally am not a fan of that spice. My boyfriend is, but the fragrance of it on this orchid is really beautiful. It's not very strong. It's mild. If we compare it to the Bellina, there's no comparison. But look how beautiful the flower is. How can you obtain such a hybrid? I'm so scared that I'm gonna lose this orchid. So I'm not even spraying it with anything. When I will have insects on it, I'm just gonna wipe the leaves a little bit with my solution, but I'm never gonna shower this orchid because I don't think I will find it again. I think it's one of those hybrids that Orchids Deluxe had, but all of them were just a little bit different because they were all from seed, obtained from seed. So I don't know if I will ever encounter one like this, ever. Maybe I will, I don't know. But I am really taking care of it. I have another bud developing here, which is nice. How lovely is she? Thank goodness it doesn't smell bad. Next, here is another really, really pretty Phalaenopsis. This is Ba Shi Redsun, which is now in bloom with two lovely little flowers, which are not actually very little. This orchid I received, I believe, in my mystery box from Orchids Deluxe. And looking at it, I do believe it's actually a Bellina hybrid. It has that color pattern on it, the purple flashes in the center, and also fragrance-wise, it is somewhat similar to the Bellina as well. It smells different, it's not as intense, but it has a really nice flowery fragrance to it. This is one of the orchids that I tested under the Gemma grow bulbs, and look at that, I don't have as much anthocyanin. So with this one, I think keeping it in a lower light situation will just make it look a little bit better. Anthocyanin is not a bad thing, but this looks a little bit excessive. So currently I'm still keeping it under the Gemma grow bulbs because I made an entire shelf mainly dedicated to the polychilous type of Phalaenopsis. One Phalaenopsis that I don't think I showed you last month, I don't remember at this point, there are too many, is Friday Prince's brother. And here it is today with two lovely flowers that look beautiful. This is again a polychilous type Phalaenopsis coming from Orchids Deluxe. I don't know if it was in the mystery box or I purchased it myself, might have purchased it myself, because those blooms look really, really pretty. What I particularly love on this orchid is the lip. Do you see how fringy it is on the margin? That just makes it super cute to me. I don't know why. It also has a mild fragrance. Again, I don't really know how to describe it. It's there, floral, fruity, not like the Bellina. I don't think I have another Phalaenopsis that smells like the Bellina or as strong and beautiful, but it's an added bonus. Again, I would purchase this orchid only for the flowers, not necessarily for the fragrance. Next, here we have the Phalaenopsis Tianjin Fly Eagle, which had another flower here that I lost. I didn't film this one in time. This one always creates slightly different flowers. You can see that these two flowers are mainly red. They only have a little bit of yellow on this petal, this one in the back, and on this sepal, the other one. Flowers can always be different on this orchid. They can either be all yellow or some of the petals or sepals yellow. I know you're impressed, Maya. And so on and so forth. This year, apparently, they decided to be rather red, which is okay, but again, this one tends to bloom throughout the summer. So I do think I'm gonna have a few more buds to go. So hopefully I can show you different looking flowers throughout the year. My Tolumnia Gyracferum White decided to rebloom on a secondary branch, which is very common for Tolumnias, but it's also common in my experience that the flowers from the branches are a little bit different than the initial flush of blooms, which I still have on this orchid. She's very long-lived. So these are the initial flowers. You can see the lovely freckles on the white lip? Well, take a look at the flowers on the secondary branch. There are no freckles on this flower, and on this side, this flower has only one freckle right here. That's it. So they are just a little bit different than the initial flush of blooms. Okay, let's have a little Top Gear moment. Some say that Tolumnias are even capable of producing keikis on their flower spikes, not only secondary branches. I've never experienced it in all of these years. I know there is a species which creates keikis or new growths on its flower spike and has a really weird pattern of growth, in my opinion. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these very common hybrids. Did you guys ever had a keiki growing on the flower spike of a Tolumnia hybrid? Let me know down below in the comment section because I'm really curious. I've never seen one, but they say it's possible. And the last orchid that I decided to include in this month's recap is a Phalaenopsis hybrid. This is an Phalaenopsis Irene Dobkin, and this is the only flower that made it. I had a major thrips infestation on this flower spike and I managed to save only one bud that opened, and here it is. Rather sad display. What to do? Hopefully we're gonna do better next year, but the orchid is healthy at least and doesn't have other types of thrips. It's one that I purchased this year, but it's already establishing really nice. So hopefully next year we're gonna have better blooms. This has a pretty bad reputation. It's supposed to be a little bit finicky. I don't know what to say about it. I had one in the past, but I lost it to stem rot somehow. So I decided this year not to spray my Phalaenopsis, but rather to deal with the pests with different means. It's really beautiful. It has a lovely pale orange color with a much deeper orange lip, and I hope that next year I'll have a better display on it because it does look like a Vanda in the body of a Phalaenopsis. How about that? So that's about it for today. There are others, but this video is too long, so I'm gonna feature them next month because they're not fully bloomed. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to vote for your favorite one down below in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye!